In this video, we're going to focus on how you can create a lollipop chart. And basically, the goal of a lollipop chart has like a line chart or a line, and then eventually with a header or a lollipop head on top of it. And we will make a very basic one here, which will hide and appear nicely. And you can see here, including the animation, will work. If I refresh, you can see the animation will work nicely. So let's start to look how to make a basic lollipop chart in Chartjs. So the first thing what we need to do here is to get a default code, which is on chart.js3.com, or this specific link here with getting started. You can find a link also in the description box. Scroll down and then copy this chunk of code here. So once we have this, and if you want to understand what this code does, make sure you watch this video here that explains it all. So once you have it, paste it all in there, and then I'm going to cut out this and then put in here the title, refresh, and now we have a basic bar chart. So if you really look carefully in a lollipop chart, in essence the lines is considered a line chart, but with Chartjs we don't have to do that, and making it a very narrow is of course not really recommended if you want to have the hover effect, because once it's a very thin line it's very hard to hover over it. So what we're going to do is, and will be most easiest, is just to make a bar chart out of it, but we make the bar extremely narrow. So first of all, let's swap these axes so it will become a horizontal bar chart. So the first thing here, if I scroll down here in the options, enter, and then we're going to say here index axis, and the index axis will be equal to y. So we swap them with the y-axis. There we are. So now we have the first item. The next item, what we're going to do here, you can do it here just in the border width. We can say here bar percentage, and this controls the thickness or the width of the bar itself. How many percent do we want the bar to be covering the category? As you can see, this is the entire category, so the bar covers now 80% of that category. So let's do the 0.2. If I save that, refresh, that looks, to be honest, quite acceptable. It's not too thick and it's quite visible for everyone to see. So what I would say here is I would just maintain this. The border width, we could remove this to reduce it, to make it slightly more narrow. There you are. But then what I want to do, of course, is the colors for the border. I want to duplicate them on here. Save that, refresh. Alright, so now we have this here. What I want to do next is the the tooltip pointing up, or at least the cloud point up, and the caret, which is the triangle here. If you see it at the very end, you see the triangle shape, that's what we call caret. That should be pointing southward, meaning that if it points down, the cloud will be on top of it. Alright, so let's go here, and then we're going to say here in the options, we say plugins, and then we're going to say tooltip. And then the tooltip, we will be y align equal bottom. So then, comma here, save that, there we are. So now if we hover over it, you can see here, beautiful. It is now pointing on the right item. So next thing here is to put a nice dot on top of this here. So how do we do this? Well, for this I'm going to use just a simple plugin. I'm going to put a comma here in the options. So you see here the options here, comma. I'm going to say plugins, and then in the plugins we're going to call this the lollipop chart. That's the term. Alright, so we're just going to do it like that. Lollipop chart, or I guess it's the circle on top of it. So what I'm going to say here, first of all, I want to say here // as a comment, and then we say plugin, and then here we're going to say a constant lollipop chart equals, and this should be a constant. Alright, lollipop chart equals, and then we can say ID, although this is not necessary in this case because we won't be using the options, but anyway, just as an extra. So if you would use it, then in that case it is suitable. Then next what I want to do here is the timing of drawing. So when would we draw the item here? Well, basically in our case we have two options. We can first of all draw on top of the data set or before the data set. So there's a difference in that, and you have to consider. I would recommend, if you are using a different color for the lollipop or the circle, then put it always as after the data set. And if it's just the same color, then it doesn't matter. Why? Because if it's before the data set, and it will be, for example, black, and I'm going to show you later, you'll see that this bar will be pointing up, and then you can see the circle behind this bar here. Anyway, I will show it to you. That will be far more easier to explain. First of all, I'm going to say after data sets draw. So we're going to say we draw the circles after the data set has been drawn, or in other words, after the bars has been drawn on the canvas. And then we're going to say here chart. These are 3 objects, although we're going to use only the first one. The other 2 you can ignore, but I use them as a default, and you can do a console log to see what they are. Anyway, this object is the crucial one because it consists of everything. Just to make sure you understand what I mean, let me show you here again. Say chart, open up the developer tab, and then you can see here the following. So if I click on this, you can see here we get all the information here. And this is very important because with this information we can start to get whatever we need. But anyway, for us, we'll be using only a few items. What we're going to use is here, first of all, the CTX, which is basically this one here, which is the drawing command in the canvas. And we can use here the tooltip, but probably won't be using the tooltip. So I guess in this case, we will be only using constant. And this is what we call data, not data, so object destructuring. So we do constant chart, which refers to this one. And then we're going to say here CTX. Basically what we're doing here, instead of saying chart.ctx, now we can use is just console log chart or console log CTX like this. And what we get then is exactly the same as what we did here and to get this here. Because here we had to go 1 level deep. So that's what we're basically doing here. Anyway, this really means, or the CTX really means to draw something on the canvas. And if you understand the canvas, this is the one here to draw on. And if you want to learn more about the canvas, I have a canvas series that covers a lot of topics, which is still ongoing, by the way, that covers many different topics to draw all kind of items on the canvas. So what I want to do now is ctx.save. So I want to save the variable that we have here. And next, I want to start drawing. So what I want to draw here, or what I need here, is just the following. Let's look at it. What do we really need? So if I close this console log, or the developer tab, I need to put a dot here. But what is very important when we put the dot here, I need to know what is the x and y coordinates of this. So we get it exactly at this position. Alright, so what we're going to do here now is just the following. I'm going to say here a special command. We can do here console log again, just to show you. I'm going to use this specific command, chart.get data set meta, which is a special, I guess, a special built-in feature from Chartjs. And here we're going to say here, what is the data set? In this case, we only have 1 data set. Assumption with the Lollipop chart is that you have 1 data set. And then what I want to do here is I want to say here, dot the data. So if I'm going to save this now, refresh, open up developer tab again, and then what I want to do here, you can see here we get an array of 7 items here. And what we get is specifically the x and y coordinates, which are representing these here. And that is extremely crucial for us, because with this we can now start to play, because those are the official coordinates. So if I do here dot x, and then specifically on index 0, which is the red one, then it will be. And this is correct because 690 would be basically at the almost at the very end here. So if I do this and we say index 0, that we should get here 690 pixels. And what you do see, and this is very nice, you can see it starts and it gradually increases. Why does it increase? Because of the effect here. So that will mean that this lollipop head basically will eventually start at the bottom or start from left and move as well together with the bar along the line, along to the right side. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab this one, or basically now we can just say constant x equals this specific variable or value. And then of course here same, but then this will be the y value for the y coordinates. Put in the y, there we are. And now what we can do here is the following. What I want to do here now is to draw a specific circle shape. So for that, what I'm going to do here, I'm going to use a specific constant, which is angle. This is important. Just follow me along. If you want to understand it, I'm going to recommend you to check out my canvas series. But basically here, in the angle, what I want to do here is I just want to calculate the pi, the math.pi, and we'll divide it by 180, so we get one angle at a time. Because pi, basically 1 pi is 50% of a circle, and 2 pi is 360 degrees. So that's why I'm now dividing it by 180. Anyway, you can learn more about that in my Canvas video series. Absolutely recommend it. So, and I will put it also in the, by the way, I will put that in the comment section where you can find the link for that. So what we need next is, once we have this here, I want to start to draw the item. I'm going to say a ctx.begin path, which would indicate I want to draw something, start drawing, but we start fresh with no other things connected with that. This is very important. And then what I'm going to do here is ctx.fill style. And for now, I will just grab a basic color. Let's make this black. And then later on, I will show you with the black this when I change that. Next, what I want to do here is I want to say now ctx.arc, which is to draw the arc variable. And basically, there are 5 variables we need to know. First one will be the x position, and then the next one will be the y position. And then we have what we call the radius, which is how big eventually circle will be. And then once we have that, we have the starting angle, start angle, and then we have the end angle, and finally, do we have counterclockwise, yes or no? So counterclockwise. In our case, we won't be using counterclockwise, so we say false. That's number 1. X and Y in this case, we already have them here nicely. The radius, well, because we have here this bar, and we can check the bar here. What is the width of that? I guess it's very narrow. I think it's like 10 pixels. Or we don't have, of course, anything. It's a bar percentage here. So let's make this simply just 10 pixels radius. That's acceptable. Then we're going to say starting angle. So the starting angle will be just angle multiplied by 0. And then what I want to do is I want to make a full 360. So I'm going to say here angle multiplied by 360 degrees. So if I save this now, enter that, and what I need to do here now is, of course, close the circle. So I'm going to say a ctx.fill, which would close the circle here. And once I did it, if I save that, refresh, alright, so there you are. So now it does nicely. An item here. We still need to do a few things here, but I want to show you just quickly. This is the before. If I do before, what will happen? You can see here now we get another issue. And that issue is specifically that it is behind the bar, which looks absolutely hideous. If you are on the same line, it does not matter. Or if the colors are identical, it would not matter. But if the colors are different, this doesn't make sense. So then I do here after. So that's important thing to consider. Alright, so now we have this. What I want to do here now, we have to fill. What I want to do here now is ctx.close path to close this, so it will not be connecting or impacting anything else. And finally, I want to say ctx.restore. Save this, refresh. Alright, so now we have this, and the restore will reset any values here, if ever. So now we have this one here, which is very nice. But of course, how can we change the color? Plus, how would we be able to loop them here, or to put them everywhere? Well, first of all, the answer is by using a loop, and the loop will be also based here. So to do this, I'm going to put in here enter, enter, and I'm going to say here just a for loop, and then later on we're going to work on the color. Say let I equals 0, which is a for loop, and then we say here, basically I'm going to grab this here. Remember here is the data, we get 7 items, so we say dot length. So then I will say we keep on looping I as long as the I is smaller than whatever we have here, which is 7. And then we say I++ for incremental increase or incremental adding of one value. And then what we're going to do here, I'm going to do the following. I'm going to cut out this here. Once I cut that out, I want to put that in here. So I don't want to have this one in there. What I want to do here, I want to create a function. And this function will be called our circle. And this circle will eventually consist of certain parameters that we need. So I'm going to cut out this, put it in there. Then we have this here. Then what I'm going to do here is basically this. Remember here, we're going to loop through this. So basically, if I do this here with the I, we have the I here and the I here. And then what I want to do is I want to say this function will be looped in here. So if I save this, semicolon, save, refresh. Alright, so it doesn't work. So hold on, let me double check what's the error here. X reference is not defined. Alright. You can see here this is not defined, which is correct because it's only in this specific block. So then it doesn't recognize because we're not allowed to move blocks here because remember, constant are block scopes. So what is here the solution? Well, we have this function here. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to say I want to move x, comma, y. And then I say here, I want to avoid confusion, I'm going to say x position, comma, y position, which is exactly the same meaning with that. Except then this is just a term for us to avoid double terms and confusion. So I'm going to paste them in here as well, because this and this is identical to that. So basically what I'm saying here, we're going to loop through this, we go through this function, and in this function I want to move two specific values, which are the x value and the y value, which are the coordinates. So basically these coordinates or position are in here, and then these are set in there. So if I save this now and refresh, there we are. Now we have looped through this, and it will loop automatic if you have even more. So that's very nice. So now we have this done. But of course, what about the color? And you can see here, if you loop it or if you hover over it, once you hover a bit here on the side, it doesn't work well. So what we could do here maybe, if desirable, we say here, we're going to deduct this -5, for example. And then refresh. Alright. So once you do -5, you can see here, then we are hovering more on it and it will have lesser white space basically. Does it? Well, we could do maybe -10. Let's see. That works. Slightly better. Alright. That one. There you are. So you have to play a little bit with that. So that's the only item here. However, I would say that's alright. It's quite acceptable. You can do this, although doesn't matter. It's up to you what you want to do with that. So what I want to do is I will just keep it -5. So what happens is that the tooltip will be still a little bit pointing in the center of that specific item. Alright. Now let's do the color. So how do we get the color? Well, let me get this here. If we do here a console log, let's do here console log, put in there, put in this here, save that, refresh. Alright, so we got many times this, don't worry, because of the animation. And by the way, if you look at it, look, the balls or the lollipop head is basically moving from left to right nicely. So we get the animation already. But the next thing what I want to do here is to get the color. So when we click here on data, we have all of this. Alright, so what I want to do here now is to get the border color. So how do we get the border color? We need to go here down and we have to look for data sets. Underscore data set to be specific. And you can see here background color and border color. I want the border color so it's identical. So what I'm going to do here is this underscore data set, and then we say dot border color. So if I save this now and refresh, we get all of the colors. So I want this specific index that we have in the loop here. So if we do this with I, alright, you can cut out this. Then we're going to say constant, and this constant will be let's say color or border color. Border color equals this, and then we can change this here. We say comma, and let's say this will be border color, and the border color here, to avoid confusion, I'll just say color. Color will be replaced with, or the black will be replaced with the color. So if I save this now and refresh, there we are. Alright, so now we have this here, and we have it now really working nicely. But there's one thing that you might notice, and if you haven't noticed, I'm going to show you. So this is the biggest issue. If I click on this, alright, so this works, surprisingly, and last time it didn't work. But what I want to do is just to avoid if ever we would have some problems in here that it might maintain in there, because I know it was when I testing it, some of these items didn't disappear nicely. So I want to make sure that maybe you have that issue. If you have that issue, and I'm surprised it doesn't show up now, because I had it a few minutes before when I tested it, I had that issue. But I'm going to make sure if ever you experience that, this is the solution. So alright, what we're going to do here, to avoid that the border color, in case that these creations or the lollipop head maintains, what we're going to do is we create an if statement. And this if statement will be very simple. It will say chart.is data set visible. And in this case, I'm going to assume this is just data set 0. I'm just always assuming here data set 0. Usually with a lollipop, I don't know if there would be many different data sets. It could be, but probably would not be practical because of the lollipop heads. They might overlap each other. So we have this here. So all I want to do here is the following. Basically what this does is, let me just show you. I guess that would be even better before I even do anything. Let's do a console log. And this console log will show you this. Save this, open up. Alright, that's true. So if I click now on here, it says false. True, false, true, false. So what I want to do here, just to make sure, is if ever in somehow that the border color or these lollipop heads stuck on the page here or on the canvas without, it will not disappear for some reason, then I want to make them transparent so they eventually will disappear without any problem. So what I'm going to do here is just say this, copy that, there's an if equals true. In that case, what I want to do then is I want to say, alright, so I'm going to say let border color equals, well, basically nothing yet, or we just do let border color. So you have this variable assigned, but then I'm going to grab here this, and I'll say this equals that. And then else, if it's not true, so it is invisible or not showing, in that case border color will be equal hashtag, or no, not hashtag, I will say transparent, not white, just do transparent, because so it will not impact at all, will not be visible at all. So once we do this, save that, then we do that, there we are. Although they are already showing correctly, but this will 100% be sure that you won't get any errors here or issues. And that's basically how you can create a basic lollipop. And of course, I have another one eventually I will make very soon. That will be more advanced like this here, because there was a specific question I saw how to create something like this. So once that video is up, we will see it here somewhere popping up right now.